Welcome back to This Explainer. Today we're setting the stage for a really incredible microscopic journey into the anatomy and physiology of blood. We're going to look deep into its detailed mechanics to see exactly what is pumping through your veins right this very second. Okay, let's dive into this. We're breaking our journey down into 6 parts: the river of life, the oxygen fleet, the defense force, the repair crew, blood diagnostics, and finally, your important key takeaways. So, starting right off with Section 1, the River of Life, focusing on volume and composition. I want you to just pause for a second and consider the sheer scale of the circulatory system operating inside you right now. The average adult body is carrying around about 5 to 6 liters of blood. That's roughly 7 to 8% of your total body weight. It's an absolutely massive volume of fluid, and it's strictly required to keep our tissues oxygenated, our organs fed, and honestly, just to keep us alive every single second of the day. Now, if you were to draw a vial of that blood and spin it super fast in a laboratory centrifuge, you'd see a brilliantly clear foundational split. You get 55% plasma, which is the fluid river itself, and 45% cellular components. Think of those as the passengers traveling down that river. It's just a perfect biological balance of liquid transport and microscopic machinery. And looking closer at that 55% fluid portion, there's a really crucial clinical difference we need to understand: plasma versus serum. Right, so plasma is the complete liquid package. It's got your vital proteins like albumin and globulin, your electrolytes, waste products, nutrients, and this is key, clotting factors like fibrinogen. Serum, on the flip side, is literally just plasma with that fibrinogen and the other clotting factors removed. So when your blood clots, the clear fluid left behind, that's your serum. Moving right along to Section 2, let's talk about erythrocytes, the oxygen fleet. Now, what's really interesting here is the mighty red blood cell, the erythrocyte. It's the most abundant cell in your blood, and it has this incredibly distinct biconcave shape. It's kind of like a donut where the hole hasn't been punched all the way through. This highly specific shape, combined with a super thin cell membrane, gives it a massive surface area. And why does that matter? Well, because that surface area allows for incredibly easy, rapid diffusion of vital gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide, as these super flexible cells squeeze their way through the tiniest microscopic blood vessels in your body. But you might be wondering, where do these amazing oxygen-carrying cells actually come from? That brings us to a critical definition: erythropoiesis. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's just the scientific term for the highly complex production process of red blood cells, a process that kicks off deep inside your red bone marrow. And to actually pull this off, your body relies on a very steady supply of raw materials. The whole process strictly requires iron, vitamin B12, and folic acid. If you're deficient in literally any of these, that entire vital assembly line just grinds to a halt. So let's see how this builds. The erythropoietin loop actually starts with a stem cell in the bone marrow that commits to becoming an erythroid precursor. It pushes through several maturation stages, eventually spits out its nucleus to become a reticulocyte, and finally hits the bloodstream as a fully mature erythrocyte. But what's the engine driving this whole thing? It's your kidneys. When your kidneys sense low oxygen tension in your tissues, they release a hormone called erythropoietin, and bam, that kicks the whole bone marrow production line right into high gear. And once they're in the bloodstream, these mature red blood cells embark on what is basically an exhausting 120-day mission. Yeah, that's the awe-inspiring average lifespan of an erythrocyte. For about 4 straight months, they relentlessly ferry oxygen back and forth. But after those 120 days, they naturally wear out. They go through a process called hemolysis, which basically means they get broken down, mostly in the spleen, liver, and bone marrow. But nature is incredibly efficient, right? Your body masterfully takes them apart and actively recycles the hemoglobin and iron to build brand new red blood cells. All right, shifting gears to Section 3, leukocytes. This is our defense force. Now, despite making up only about 1% of your total blood volume, these frontline immune soldiers are fiercely organized. As you can see, all these blood cells trace back to a single ultimate ancestor, the pluripotent stem cell. From there, the family tree branches into 2 totally distinct lineages. On one side, you've got the lymphoid stem cells, which go on to create your highly targeted T and B lymphocytes. And on the other, you have the myeloid stem cells, which produce practically everything else, branching off into monocytes and your granulocytes, like eosinophils, neutrophils, and basophils. The absolutely crucial point here is that each specific white blood cell has a highly specialized job to keep you alive. Neutrophils, they're your rapid first responders, essential for limiting bacterial infection by literally eating the bacteria. That's phagocytosis. Monocytes are your heavy-duty tissue cleaners, highly effective against fungus. Then we have eosinophils, which digest foreign proteins and are super involved in allergic reactions. Basophils pack histamine and are integral to hypersensitivity reactions. And finally, lymphocytes, which includes your T cells acting as a surveillance system for foreign material, and your B cells, which form life-saving antibodies. It is a literal masterclass in the division of labor. Which brings us to our next major component. Section 4, platelets, the repair crew. The central concept we're dealing with here is hemostasis. That's just the clinical definition for the control of bleeding. And this totally life-saving process is entirely governed by thrombocytes, which is the formal name for platelets. Interestingly enough, platelets aren't really even full cells. They're actually these tiny little fragments that break off from massive parent cells in the bone marrow called megakaryocytes. Their production is regulated by a substance called thrombopoietin, and they are absolutely key to providing the basis for coagulation. Think about it. Without them, even the smallest paper cut would be a catastrophic medical event. They step right in to plug the holes and prevent us from bleeding out when our vessels suffer any damage. Next up is Section 5, measuring health. Let's look at blood diagnostics. So, how do medical professionals actually use all this to solve the mysteries of bodily dysfunction? Well, when you get a complete blood count, or CBC, you'll see a bunch of common acronyms. Let's decode them. HCT is hematocrit, telling doctors the percentage of cell volume in your blood. MCV measures the actual physical size of your red blood cells. MCH looks at cell color, which indicates the average hemoglobin inside. RDW measures the variation in those cell sizes, and the reticulocyte count gives us the number of brand new red blood cells. Together, these metrics tell a very clear story. For example, if there's a huge variation in size or a ton of new cells, that tells a doctor your body is desperately trying to compensate for a condition, like anemia. But beyond your standard CBC, we also have more specialized tests. Take a really simple blood draw test, like the ESR, the erythrocyte sedimentation rate. This one detects systemic inflammation and measures acute phase responses. It's basically a broad indicator that, hey, some pathological process is happening somewhere. But if a doctor needs to truly do a deep dive, they're going to rely on a bone marrow aspiration and biopsy. Instead of just looking at the blood currently floating in the veins, a biopsy, which is often taken from the posterior iliac crest in your hip, directly determines the actual function and production capabilities of the bone marrow factory itself. All right, we've covered a lot of ground. Section 6, important key takeaways. Let's distill this entire microscopic journey into the most vital points you absolutely need to remember. Number 1, your blood is a massive 5 to 6 liter system, perfectly balanced into 55% fluid plasma and 45% working cells. Number 2, your erythrocytes, the red blood cells, are a relentless oxygen fleet carrying out a grueling 120-day mission. Number 3, leukocytes, your white blood cells, form a highly specialized, multi-tiered disease-fighting defense force. Number 4, platelets act as your dedicated repair crew, ensuring hemostasis so you can actually recover from injuries. And number 5, through precise diagnostics like CBCs and biopsies, all of these components reveal the deepest, most hidden secrets of our inner health. Which leaves us with this final thought. Considering its complex cellular cast, from the oxygen fleet to the specialized defense force to that tiny repair crew, doesn't a single drop of your blood hold the complete, awe-inspiring blueprint of your body's daily struggle for survival? It's literally an incredible system working silently inside you right now. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep marveling at your own biology, stay perfectly curious, and I'll see you next time.